imagine a moment where you're sitting there, you and your wife are in the kitchen, honey, food's ready. Okay, babe. And you're sitting there, so how was your date today? And then you hear this guy.
Yeah, I get it.
And then you're watching like.
I get it. I've never heard anybody make a different case. I've never heard anybody say to me why it's okay that you would have a male be competing against females. I totally get it.
If they continue this way, though, Chris, if they continue this way, the argument when you're presenting and the method of you trying to gain the voters, when you do things like that, you lose in a major way, which, by the way, this is the commercial Charlie was talking about. Rob, if you want to play the clip.
Yeah, just to be clear, they went all in on this ad.
$75 million. And
I have a thought afterwards.
Go ahead, Rob.
Support taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that.
Kamala supports transgender sex changes in jail with our money.
Kamala even supports letting biological men compete against our girls in their sports. Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you.
Ad.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Now, can I say something, though? There has been this consensus by some that the culture war should be away from politics, and the culture war loses elections. This advertisement, as studied now by 3 different firms as the most effective ad, is against that theory, which is that the culture war actually gave Donald Trump the edge. Now, Chris, I'll also say that ad probably was also why some young black men stayed at home.
Maybe.
Right? Because the Trump campaign deserves credit for at least saying, communicating to the audience, look, Kamala's not worthy of your vote. And it really dampened down enthusiasm. How many young black men in Detroit were excited to go vote for Kamala if they feel as if she wants to go put men in female sports? You see what I'm saying?
I totally get it. And that is a rule of politics. I believe culture wars have always been part of politics. And so the idea that it's separate and apart, I don't agree that it ever was, but it certainly isn't now.
But can it be effective? I think it can be.
100%. I mean, look, he doesn't win without it. I mean, in this race, the economics mattered as well. In 2016, he was a purely cultural proposition, and it worked. So there, empirically, we're on the same side with this. Look, here's my concern with here's why I don't like this, okay? I'll put it that way. I totally agree with the premise, okay? And I think that the manifestations of it that they were putting out there are even more effective than the sports one. That everybody gets access to a sex change in prison, that even illegal migrants get access. That bothers your sense of rightness, okay?
Of justice.
No, of justice, of fairness under law. To me, those are more powerful than the guys my size playing high school, or that guy was like twice my size, that was in the commercial, playing with girls. Why? Because that doesn't happen that much. The other two
but hold
will.
On, Chris, it happens more than you think, but even if it only happens a little, it's an affront to our sense of justice
as
well. Right? I mean, because...
Yeah, I get it.
And it is a tactic used by some, not you. Oh, it's not happening that much. But hold on. When an injustice occurs at the highest, for example, the NCAA swimming championship. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't take many.
It doesn't take, or at the Olympics, or right now, the story that was cooking before the election, the San Jose State volleyball team,
right.
All these teams are forfeiting. I mean, that is at the highest levels of the NCAA. And so, yeah, I mean, look, we don't know to the exact rapidity that it is happening, but even if it happens once at an NCAA championship level.
I get it. Now, where I had more of a problem with this is the immigrant crime issue, because to me, like on this one I get because it's a value play. On the immigrant crime thing, I was like, hey, you don't have to make boogeymen out of them. There are people already very wary of them. Our crime problem in this country is not immigrant motivated, illegal immigrant motivated. I don't think you have to exaggerate things. The truth is often enough. The southern border is a nightmare. The Democrats allowed it to stay that way and actually exacerbated the problem. That's enough. My complaint with Trump was you don't have to demonize the people who are coming over here. The truth is enough for you.
But would you acknowledge that them coming over, they committed a crime?
Oh, yeah.
Well, so then they're criminals.
By definition, I know, but
they're definitionally criminals.
I know, but that's juicing the statistic. He's talking about raping, murdering, those crimes.
We can get to that, but there is something to be said that if I just like show up in your living room uninvited.
It's absolutely wrong. Unless somebody is chasing you across the border with a gun, your life is in jeopardy. Otherwise, it's a crime.
You know that's not happening, right?
It's a crime. It's almost always economic. And it is always a crime to enter illegally. No question about it. What you do about it is what we should be talking about. Not here, but I mean, we should be talking about what do you do, how are you going to do it, and getting it done.
Fair or unfair in politics, certain stories and narratives will end up defining a race. With George H.W. Bush in 1988, it was the Willie Horton ad against Dukakis. Donald Trump, to a lesser extent, had stories like Laken Riley, who was brutally murdered in Athens, Georgia, or Rachel Morin, who was hunted down in a hiking trail by an illegal alien, a mother of, I think, of four kids. And so, like, those stories aren't misrepresentations. They're real things that happened. And again, what is the vibe? Because Kamala's talking about vibes a lot that Trump played into, is that you guys are not doing well, and for whatever reason, we're allowing all these people in an unregulated fashion. Right. And again, what does it get back to? This was Trump's brilliance. That ad, the immigration question, it's an affront to our instinctive, God-built, programmed attunement of justice, of right or wrong. People say, that's not right.
When you can find an issue where it's hard for people to disagree with the position, you're in a very good space. And immigration, it's been on poll preferences before, but it's never been like a main thing the way it has the last couple of cycles. And I think that has been a huge differentiator that has been beneficial to the right/Trump, which is really that far left explanation of open borders. It's very hard to find a Democrat who's in power, who's in favor of an open border. But the perception that, well, Trump had this set of rules. You came in and you got rid of all of them because they were his, and you did nothing to replace it, to deal with the problem, and it all got worse on your watch. It's really hard with anybody to disagree with that. It's demonstrably true. And then the issue, because it's politics and it was made into a powerful narrative, became really important to everybody. And everybody, Governor,
what state?
Texas Governor Abbott.
Yeah.
You got to put him on your list. And I should have thought of him. Him sending illegal migrants to other states was a genius political move. You can talk about the humanity of it, but because now it made these other populations. Look at New York City. We never talked about that before.
For the record, it wasn't just because of Abbott. Joe Biden and the DHS also, they do flights out from the ports of entry, right? So it wasn't just red state governors.
Right, but he did it with an intentionality.
Yeah, there was some political.
And DeSantis,
there
too.
was some political
smart.
theatrics to it.
However,
the policy of the Department of Homeland Security is that you go to a port of entry and we will give you a flight to 30 cities of your choosing. Yeah, and so it did nationalize the immigration question.
And I agree with both. And look, catch and release is another one of those things that it is hard to be in favor of as a principle. So what, you're going to catch somebody doing something wrong and you're going to let them go and hope they come back and probably get kicked out of the country.
So can I ask you a question, Chris? Why do you think the Democrats had such a passive border for the last 4 years? If it's so insane, why do you think that is?
Several reasons, okay? One, because solving that problem is not as useful to them until now as weaponizing the problem. And I believe that about both sides. That it allowed Democrats to say, boy, do you people hate people. You are anti-American. You don't even love immigrants anymore. You toxic whiteys. And it allowed the right to say, you people are crazy. You do not use your brain. There is nothing good about what's pouring over the border. And I really believe that's a big motivator and why neither side, Obama had both houses, did healthcare, didn't do this. Nobody has, when they've had the chance, has tried to do this except late in the game this last cycle, which everybody saw through. Second reason, they do have a left flank issue. They do have a left flank issue that is hyper sympathetic to the suffrage of those people and believe that you should just be welcoming all in. That's what this country is. That's what it is. It's best. The main reason, though, was in politics, what they call paralysis by analysis. So the numbers start going bad. They know in Biden administration, it's because they relaxed those home country agreements and the other executive orders. Now the problem is theirs. So what you do in politics 9 times out of 10 is ignore it and focus on something else. instead of owning and fixing, because owning gets you owned.
I mean, but if you know that 10,000 people a day are coming into your country and you ignore it, how is that not treason?
It's not treason.
No, but
because,
just like, let's look at it analytically, non-politically. You allow 10,000 people to come in and you just ignore it. How are you not fulfilling your obligation to the country?
Well, you could argue that it is mis or even malfeasance. Treason, no. Treason is a defined crime where you're giving comfort to an enemy. You're assuming that all of these people are therefore enemies, which they aren't.
The cartels are enemies.
Well, but they're not all cartel people.
But enough are to...
Not to be treason. But it's definitely political malpractice. It was definitely wrong. And the cartels, I think, are a great emphasizer of that point. And fentanyl, which got very little attention.
But again, I don't want to dwell too much on the treason thing. I'm not grilling you. I'm just trying to understand, because you talk to Democrats a lot, and you know many.
And I'm
of them.
okay being grilled, by the way.
No, I have my own speculation of which is nothing but that. How you can say that you're governing a country and you're spending all this money on Ukraine and all this stuff on abstractions, and you just are kind of, at best, indifferent to your own nation being overrun.
You know what I would say to that? Here's what I would add to that, Chris. Charlie earlier said, hey, what's the number one reason? What do you think? He says, buying Twitter. I'm like, you know what? I agree. And my reason for saying yes is because if Twitter was still owned by Dorsey, ran by the old guy, I don't remember his name, the CEO, a lot of people wouldn't be back on. And the first domino of getting everybody, Trump back on social was Twitter, when he let Alex Jones back on, when he let Andrew Tate back on, when he let Trump back on, and Trump wouldn't tweet because he was still on Truth, and Facebook follows, Instagram follows, everybody else follows, right? If that doesn't happen, we don't hear the counter arguments to everything, and we can be gaslit into believing that nothing's really going on with the border. Then that opens it up where someone like me, I run a big, insurance agency, and what my day looked like is every day people would bring me things and says, watch what he did. That's not compliant. And eventually the bigger insurance company becomes, you're all becoming a compliance officer. Trust me, it's not fun, but you're constantly trying to see who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And all I do throughout the day is hear two arguments. Well, here's what they did, and they should have given us the insurance policy. Really? Yeah. What else? Anything else you want to tell me before I go ask him questions? These are the two facts you need to know. Perfect. Hey, what happened here? Da-da-da-da-da. He didn't tell me that. Yeah, what else? Da-da-da-da. Can you show me proof? Yeah, here's the email. Can you show me the text? Got it. Hey, you didn't tell me about it. Well, yeah, but it's not fair. You like him more than I said, no. Now you're getting emotional. He has a better argument than you do. Take all the emotion aside. Leaving the border open, you're the border czar, and then later on you want to run and you're not. Hey, kids competing, boys competing with... There's so much of this that the person that's not involved in politics, that I don't need to have 45 years in politics or 60 years to say, no, common sense, this doesn't make sense. No, common sense, this doesn't make sense.
You have to be right because of what we just saw in the returns.
Well, it's not about I have to be right. I think the American people who don't have time to follow politics, but they've lived a life long enough where they trust common sense, sit there and say, that's the party of common sense. You don't make any sense. I can't vote for you because you don't make any sense with the border, with the economy, with marriage, with the way you're okay with these guys competing. To me, that's the part. If the Democrats today don't make adjustments and they stay arrogant thinking and Obama can come and save them, Obama no longer has the voice he used to have. By the way, the report comes out, Rob, and if we're on this border thing, let's do this before we go to the next one. They announced that Tom Homan is officially the director of immigration in law enforcement, right. The border czar. And when that was announced, I think about a year and a half ago, we talked about, Rob, that if Trump gets elected, if you can go on Twitter, Rob, just play that clip from the podcast. I said, if Trump gets elected, this guy's going to be the border czar. And if he does, this is the wrong guy. They don't want this guy to be. And go ahead and play this clip. And then you'll see him going up against AOC and how he handles AOC. Go ahead, Rob. If Trump wins, this guy is going to be back running the border. And I want to remind you guys who this guy is when he sat down with AOC and AOC tried to grill him. Yeah. And watch what happened to AOC when she tried to grill a man who knows the law. You get a deal to watch. It's just entertaining. Go ahead.
Of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Bartender. Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
What?
When you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
You can pause it right there.
The Attorney
See, there's
General.
nothing that can be said. So the average person watches this, and let's just say, by the way, I know a lot of people are going to think this is weird. I actually like AOC. I know it's going to sound weird. I actually like AOC. I think AOC, every once in a while, she has a little bit of the anti-establishment in her. She doesn't like the Pelosi. She doesn't like the Schumers. She's a socialist. She's completely on the opposite side, but she's also not the most establishment left person. Sometimes she makes some decent arguments. But you watch AOC, you're like, you know what? She gives me the vibes that she wants to be the working people. But she's also bought into a philosophy where she faces a guy like that with common sense who loves America. Boom. Stomped. See, I think the American people right now are glad that guy is in. And Charlie, maybe give us an update because you're working with some of the counsel on who's coming in on the team.
Yep, that's why I keep checking. I'm not being rude. It's literally happening.
I totally get it.
I want to just
give us an update. Give us an update on what's going on there.
First of all, I mean, I've never been more encouraged ever. I've only been involved in 2 transitions if you count this one. There is this constant repetition at Mar-a-Lago right now about we need to fulfill the mandate, and it doesn't matter anything else except what did the voters select and what is going to allow the president to fulfill the mandate that voters gave him. I think his picks so far have been terrific. I do encourage people, unless you see it on Donald Trump's Truth Social, it is not verified, okay? So
I'm talking about who's going to be in the administration.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, some people say, well, Rubio selected. Well, it very well might be, but that's not verified yet. Okay. And there's a lot of Twitterati chatter right now. And you guys if you don't see it on Donald Trump's Truth Social, there is an exhaustive process to get it on Trump's Truth Social. And then it's signed, sealed, and delivered. Right. So
it's an ironic situation because usually that is the last place I would go to know if something's true.
But right now I could just tell you that there's a whole process.
Eric Trump also said that last night on Hannity when Hannity asked him about Rubio, and he says, "Look, if my father hasn't said it, it's not verified."
Which I also, please.
Are they worried about taking too many sitting lawmakers?
Well, that's my concern, which is public. Is that, again, this is nothing private, is that we're going to have a 2 or 3 seat majority in the House. So already out of the gate, we have Elise Stefanik and Mike Walls, which very well could get us down to a 1-seat majority. Right. So yes, that is a concern. Senate is not as much. However, you do then trigger potential special elections. And we know that with the tale of Jeff Sessions of Alabama, you could actually lose a Senate seat with a really amped up Democrat Party. I think that's a big concern. Whether or not my concern gets internalized or gets heard is a separate issue. But I think that if you have too many special elections, you allow a desperate Democrat Party that obviously has a lot of money to get newfound momentum while you're trying to actually get your administration off the ground. So that is definitely a concern of mine. However, you have to build your cabinet. That's your priority. I think Elise Stefanik is terrific. I think she'll do great.
Right, but you don't want to build your cabinet and lose the majority.
Which conceivably it could happen.
Because then you can't do anything.
Yeah, if you aren't. The difference is this, is that the Senate you can immediately replace with a governor appointment. The House does not have such constitutional ability.
Right. It's state by state with the Senate, though, right? The governors replace, and then whether they give them the full term or a special election is state by state.
However, it is an immediate fill of a vacancy that is in the U.S. Constitution. However, a House of Representatives member does not get a vacancy filled by a governor appointment. So it remains vacant until a special election, which is a very important technical difference. So, for example, if Marco Rubio does end up getting Secretary of State, not verified yet, everybody, Governor DeSantis the next morning can say X, Y, Z.
So you don't lose the seat.
You don't lose the seat. The House of Representatives, Elise Stefanik, Governor Hochul does not.
That's a very important distinction to know the difference between those two things.
Yeah, Governor Hochul doesn't replace.
Yeah, because you're picking your people who are you think are the right people, but you may be depleting the team that you need.
Yeah,
correct.
So it's an interesting thing. And also, your point about look at it in truth, it's part of the blessing and curse of social media. Your TikTok, when we were looking at it, you got 5 million followers, which is a really big number on TikTok. But your views or way, way beyond your followers. That is the blessing and curse of social media, is that things get put out, and if they're good for you, great. If they're bad for you, terrible, because it'll be seen a gazillion more times than even the people who are looking at you, which is something that can be weaponized. And, I don't know the answer to it. I really don't. It's easy to say, and the media loves to do this. The media loves to hate on itself, which is, something you realize when you've been in it for a while. So they're enjoying very much now saying digital media, podcast, that's where it is. That's where it is.
Can I interject on that, though? And I
Go
want
ahead.
your thought, Chris. So I have an opinion that the next wave, the American people will not reward a presidential candidate with their vote if they cannot sustain a 3-hour uninterrupted podcast like Rogan or this one. I think that is the new standard. I think the days that Meet the Press or sitting down with 60 Minutes for a 15-minute interview, I think those days are being sunsetted. And I think the new normal is that you have to earn my vote by sitting down with Joe Rogan for 3 hours, sitting down with PBD. Because here's what long-form podcasting does. There's no breaks. It could go any direction. There's a million different ways, and therefore very difficult to prepare for. So you get a very, very accurate picture of who the individual actually is.
I think you are correct that the expectations of the electorate are changing. I think that forum is unknown at this point. Joe Rogan is certainly not Mike Wallace. Okay, so
I don't diminish Joe. I think Joe Rogan is way smarter than people give credit for.
I'm not saying he's not smart. I'm saying, look, I watched every second of him with Trump. Okay, I've watched 50 hours of Joe Rogan.
I think
he calls it a conversation for a reason. By the way, I'm a big fan of conversation. I do a lot more of it now than I used to. I used to just do testing sessions because I didn't have the time.
Fair enough. No, I know that.
So I had to zero in. I'm not denigrating Joe Rogan. His success speaks for itself. What I'm saying is, I don't see him as a legit vetter.
Thanksgiving's around the corner. Christmas is around the corner. There was a moment that Kamala was uncomfortable saying Merry Christmas. She wanted to say Happy Holidays. Rob, can you play this clip? Go ahead and play this clip for the audience. Go ahead.
And when we all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas, these children are not going to have a Merry Christmas. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we?
Okay, you can pause it right there. So guess what? I want to say Merry Christmas this Christmas. Very simple. And if you are confident enough to say it as well, we had a very deep discussion, because not everybody that works here is Christian. We said, listen, guys, we want to create merch that's very bold, that says Merry Christmas with maybe some scripture in it. Let's see if we have an audience for it. Pat, I don't know if it's a good idea and all this other stuff. That's what I stand for. You want it, great. You don't want it, I totally get it. But if you're watching this and you want to get a Merry Christmas hat, you go to Starbucks and you got the sun. I just want to see the reaction. You smile. You go to work, you got a Merry Christmas hat. You got to take that hat off, right? Hey, you want another hat here. You want some of the ugly sweaters that we have here, Rob. Can you show some of the stuff that we got here? You want to get some of the stuff for your kids, shirt, future looks bright. Merry Christmas gear is officially here. And if you're bold enough to do it and order it, and again, you place any orders of this, we're going to put some future looks bright ornaments in the order for you. Limited edition custom that we have for the first 100 that place the order. If you're bold enough and you're comfortable going out there telling people Merry Christmas, and you're a valuetainer that believes the future looks bright, go place an order, and let's make some people uncomfortable or comfortable this Christmas with saying Merry Christmas. Having said that, let's get right into it. Charlie. And by the way, you can go to VT Merch to place the order. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.